G'day Eagles fans and welcome to this week's episode of the SchoDown. And it truly is the SchoDown today. The matchup the fans have all been screaming for. It's an absolute Schofest as I welcome midfield coach and former Eagle and at least in the top two Schofields to have played for the club. Jarrad, how are you, mate?
Thanks for having me.
Mate, good to see you. Look, we'll get to the game in a little bit, but look, I was watching a bit of footage of you playing back in the day. Of course, you saw the 94 boys come through. Yep. You haven't changed a bit. I reckon you look better now than when you were playing back as an 18-year-old. You're looking good, mate.
I wish my wife said that. Hence, I've gone the old shaved head, just trying to relive some old moments. But yeah, talk about the 94 boys. It was great to see some old faces from when I first started playing back when I was 18. To see those familiar faces, it was fantastic to see.
It's good. And I haven't spoken to you in here at all since you've been back at the club coaching. How have you been finding it overall, the new role and being back at the Eagles?
Yeah, it's been great. It's obviously we'd like a few more wins. It's been challenging, but it's been rewarding at the same time to see the young fellas come through. But really love my time walking back into the four walls of West Coast Eagles. You know you're in against a really good club in terms of the people that you work with, the environment that we're trying to create. I'm enjoying my time and we're moving in the right direction.
Good. All right, so let's get to a bit of the game. I called this one on the weekend, and clearly not the way the club would have liked to have gone. I know the players, you haven't had them in yet, but you would have reviewed the game as coaches. How have the coaches seen it? Yeah,
obviously wasn't great viewing on reflection. A lot of areas of the game, or facets of the game that we just didn't compete in, and through work rate, just compliance, we just didn't execute, and that's disappointing, especially in front of 50,000 people that turned up to watch the boys play. So as a coaching staff, we've reviewed it. The leaders have actually sat in on meetings with us to go through where we need to improve on, and to make sure that it's not a real heavy sort of finger pointing, but it's a bit of ownership and accountability to make us better moving forward to the back half of the year. Looking
at the midfield in particular, which is the area that you're sort of helping out with and looking after, I guess expectations was, well, there's a good list out there playing for West Coast, and the midfield was looking good, but a little bit of a perfect storm with TK out off the back. We know what Yoey's been through, such a difficult week, and then Harley's been out for 3 weeks as well. Did that play into it, or is it no excuses type?
No, look, we don't want to make excuses, but I suppose on reflection, and we always knew there was going to be some vulnerabilities there, and we've tried Liam Ryan in there, Tyler Brockman over the last couple of weeks, and bringing that mix together. We were obviously really excited about what they could produce, but yeah, at the end of the day, we didn't perform in there. And so those guys have got to own that, and as coaches we're supportive of that too. So we got to make sure that we respond in the right way. And there might have been a little bit scratchy in terms of fitness, but there's other areas of the game that could have been better in as well as a midfield group. All right, good.
Let's get to what our listeners and viewers want to ask you, Scoey. We've got a few questions from our audience. Matthew Kelly asked, what standards are non-negotiable and when not met, what's the plan to address them?
When's the plan to address it? Well, obviously we address them in game, and also got to make sure that we keep the players up. Making sure that they're going to be able to respond in game. And from week to week, we've got young players that are still learning what's required at AFL level. So there is some honesty in one-on-ones with coaches. There's always honesty within a line meeting. But in terms of non-negotiables, look, without going into the finer details, players know what they are. It's how we communicate and continue to educate the players to make sure they're not a reoccurrence moving from week to week.
There'll be things that you can't see on the stat sheet, though, non-negotiables at a footy club.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Which all clubs would have, and but once again, with such a young group, how we teach that and how we deliver that is important, and then how we train that is really important, so they can transfer that to game day.
Oh, good. Chris Walker, what is happening with the mid-forward connection at the moment? How can opposition work the ball so easily out of stoppage and centre bounces against us also?
Yeah, well, on the weekend was very disappointing. Part of our identity is to be better at stoppage and contests, and on the weekend we didn't get our mix right. We didn't get our compliance right at centre bounce. I think we gave up nearly sort of half a kilometre in terms of metres gain from centre bounce. And it puts our backs under pressure. You played down there before. You know what it's like when the ball's coming down.
Yeah.
And our guys, down back did a great job to hold up, but the damn wall will break at some stage, and we got to be better in that space. I think first so 6 to 8 weeks of the season, or probably first 6 weeks, we were in the sort of top 6 to 8 at centre bounce. And over the last part of the year, or this season, we've dropped off. So we need to rectify that, and that's coming back to building synergy. Flinny's been back in, and also getting our hands dirty. And that's where we got beaten up on the weekend.
Question from me without notice. What's the balance between looking at what the Hawks did? Because clearly they're a side in very good form, good midfield, well structured, the connection looks really good, versus watching what West Coast did, which was disappointing. Where do you find that balance? Don't do this, and this is what we can do.
Yeah, well, the first one is compliance, and compliance wasn't there at the start. And that comes back to communication. We can't just rely on the senior guys to communicate, like a Yowie, who's been a fantastic leader in that midfield all year. It's got to come back to the Tim Kellys there to help the younger fellas in there as well. So Liam Duggan's been in the midfield. He's been able to provide some great leadership. So compliance is one, to get organised, and then it comes back to will to compete. Our ability to get our craft done. That's what we train. That's what they train all week. But then it's about executing. And when you've got guys of equal calibre like the Hawthorn midfield and their big bodies, sometimes you just got to go back to the simplicity of just getting your craft right, and then it's your will to compete. And unfortunately on the weekend we didn't have it for longer periods. They obviously touched us up in there.
Yep. Tian Wakefield asked, Simo said that players and coaches broke into their lines post-game. Who drives those conversations after a loss like that, and what's said?
Yeah, well, probably can't divulge the finer detail of what's said, but it's more of a reflection piece, and the player is player-led. As coaches, we sat back and did our own reflection piece. The players have some time together, and then we went in and obviously caught up with them and just sort of recapped on what they'd discussed. Because sometimes there's some honesty around their conversation that maybe originally the coaches don't want to hear, and you've got to be a safe place to when you're delivering that message, because we're all in it together, coaches and players. But yeah, they did reflect on and where we could have been better, and we obviously dive a bit deeper into our areas. So the midfield could have been better, obviously at stoppage and contest, and how we can defend part of the ground as part of our team defence as well was probably the two key things that we took away. Yeah, okay. Stuart Watkins asks you, how many times has Jarrad been mistakenly called Will and vice versa? Oh, well, if I'm getting called Will, it's probably flattering for me. I'd feel sorry for you, but if you're getting called me. Mate, I genuinely cop it all the time, and I don't think there's a relation. No, there's no relation. There's no relation, but the funny thing is we spoke on radio, I think it was a Melbourne game a few weeks back, yes. And your mum's name Jan, and my mum's name Jan
Very
too.
Good.
So that threw me off. And they're not the same person. They're not the same person. No, we're not related. We played nearly similar amount of games. But I do get asked, are you related? I say no. Yes. So sometimes, well, I mean, no disrespect. No, and I lean into you as well, mate. Don't worry about that. Multiple premiership coach with Subiaco, big name around it. Now, you came in with the sling. I got it before I let you go, and you've taken it off. Just so, but I'm going to pull you out. What's happened to the arm? You had a bit of surgery. Yeah, I'd like to say it was a juicy story from an old footy injury, but just taking on sharks out at City Beach. Yeah, catching those big barrels down at City Beach, body surfing. But no, it wasn't that. I had a little mishap at one of our AFL games, walking down the race. I had a bit of a fall, put my arm down to brace my fall, and tore the tendon off the bone. So bloody hell. I'm 5 weeks into a 12-week recovery. It was rumoured on 6PR, I think at one stage, that it was I tripped over a bump bag of some sorts, but that is not true. Okay. I slipped over my own 2 feet. Wow. Okay, there you go. Well, mate, I know you've got a big week ahead of you, and I know you'll be looking forward to Melbourne coming up as well. So who's going to drive those conversations? If I look at those, you've got yourself, Luke Shuey, of course, a new coach as well. How's that relationship going as you move forward into going through this week and forward as well? Yeah, no, it's good. It's when you do stoppage, especially stoppage, and you don't perform, sometimes you can take it personally. But as coaching staff, we've got to make sure that we're really connected, and we are, and making sure that we dive deep in terms of what we need to improve on and how we go about it collectively. So. The relationship is good. We're all obviously in it together. We've got each other's back, and we've got to make sure that we respond in the right way and go to work. And the first place to start that is about owning and having accountability to the performance, and we'll do that this week. Good man, Scoey. That's all we've got time for this week on the SchoDown. Obviously a tough week. And you'll have to get the boys up and firing again for next week against the Demons. Good luck. And I don't know what this was, but it was the SchoDown. Thanks, mate.